Did DeepSeek just change the game? Last Monday, we saw the stock market crashing. We saw top artificial intelligence companies tanking like Nvidia. And the reason why the stock market was crashing is because this Chinese AI company, DeepSeek, released a pretty good product in January. They released a large language model, so a chatbot that has been competing with some of the top large language models here in the United States. And this has got the US AI market in kind of a frenzy, thinking that, hey, maybe China is going to be more competitive in this space than we think. In this video, we're going to look into DeepSeek's background a little bit, and we're going to talk about if DeepSeek is really a threat to the US AI market. Before we do get into the video, please make sure to like the video and also subscribe to the YouTube. Really appreciate your support. I'm also going to put a QR code for a Bitcoin tip down below. If you want to support the channel, feel free to leave me a Bitcoin tip. Now let's get into it. If you're not familiar with DeepSeek, DeepSeek is a Chinese AI company that focuses on developing open source large language models, so chatbots similar to something like ChatGPT, and they also focus on AI powered search capabilities. DeepSeek is a subsidiary of Chinese hedge fund High Flyer. What's really got the AI market in a stir right now is that DeepSeek released their newest model in January, DeepSeek V3, on January 10th, and they also released an add-on to this model, DeepSeek R1, on January 20th. And in January, DeepSeek has climbed the charts of the free rated apps, and it has become the top free rated app, surpassing ChatGPT. It did that on January 27th. So this is a large language model that is really competing with some of these very popular large language models here in the US. And I think that's something that people just weren't anticipating to happen and to happen right now. It's just a sign that China is probably going to be more competitive in this AI market than maybe people were anticipating. But I think this is something that we should have been expecting, right? We know that China wants to be competitive with the US, and AI is the future of technology. So it's not really surprising to me that we got a product like this at some point. When we look at some of DeepSeek's competitors, some of the top competitors in the US are OpenAI. You've maybe used ChatGPT. That's something that I use for a lot of my research. That's my preferred chatbot. I like it a lot. And using DeepSeek briefly, it felt very similar. I asked both ChatGPT and DeepSeek to explain game theory to me in simple terms, and they both spat out basically the same answer. I asked DeepSeek some other things as well, but it had a very similar feel to ChatGPT. There is some speculation that DeepSeek may have used some of OpenAI's data to train its model, but again, that's just speculation. Both of these chatbots did feel very similar. If we look at some other competition in the US, there's Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude. As for competition in China with large language models, there's Baidu's ErnieBot and Alibaba's Tongyi Qinwen. But when we look at the Chinese chatbots, it seems like DeepSeek has really cemented itself as the top one, and we can see that here in the US with it topping the charts. Part of the reason why the markets were scared by the success of DeepSeek is because DeepSeek claims that it trained its models for under $6 million. So all these other large language models are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars to train their models, and DeepSeek claimed that they did it for under 6 million, which brought fears that, hey, China is doing a lot with less over there, and they produced a product while spending a lot less. But I read this really good article that was written by Dylan Patel. He's a semiconductor analyst, and he basically talked about how these expenses that went into training DeepSeek are underreported. If we look at a visual here, this shows the different NVIDIA GPUs that were used to train DeepSeek, and it also shows the total capital expenditures spent. So it looks like they use 10,000 A100 GPUs, 30,000 H20 GPUs, 10,000 H800 GPUs, and 10,000 H100 GPUs. And the total capital expenditures for these GPUs came out to $1.6 billion. So it looks like DeepSeek probably spent a lot more than they are claiming to train this new model, and that's probably why it is such a good model, right? They put a lot of work into training it. A major reason why DeepSeek may have been able to produce such a superior product is because DeepSeek made an investment in 10,000 A100 GPUs, so these very strong NVIDIA GPUs in 2021. In 2022, we saw the US put export controls on these NVIDIA chips being sent to China. So in October of 2022, NVIDIA was no longer able to send these A100 chips to China, but DeepSeek got some of these chips before that took place. When we look at the H20 GPUs and the H800 GPUs, these are GPUs that NVIDIA developed specifically to meet these export controls. So these GPUs are a bit slower and they have less bandwidth, but it looks like with the combination of those A100 GPUs that DeepSeek invested in, along with the H20 and the H800 GPUs, they were able to create this pretty good product. Now the question is, does DeepSeek perform better than some of these top large language models here in the US, like OpenAI's ChatGPT? One advantage that DeepSeek may have over a company like OpenAI, and it's funny because it's called OpenAI, is the fact that DeepSeek's latest models are open source. When we look at OpenAI's latest model, ChatGPT 4.0, it's closed source. So with open source, that means that more people are able to contribute to the product and basically fine tune it, and that may give DeepSeek an advantage. DeepSeek is text-based only, so when we look at some of these top large language models, these top chatbots, they can also process images and they can produce cool images. I don't know if you've checked out DALL-E 3, I believe, which is integrated with ChatGPT, but that's pretty cool, the image generation that you can do. But when we look at reasoning and efficiency, it looks like DeepSeek is pretty on par with ChatGPT and Gemini and some of these top models. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this race plays out moving forward. And we know that these large language models are improving at a pretty fast rate. So we'll see what OpenAI's next product looks like with ChatGPT, but definitely something I'm keeping my eye on, and I wonder if DeepSeek will be able to compete with these US companies long term. Let's get into how the markets reacted to DeepSeek's success, because like I said, last Monday we saw the market sell off. We saw NVIDIA have a huge sell off. NVIDIA actually was down 17% last Monday and lost 593 billion in market capitalization. That is the largest single day loss in market cap that we have seen ever. So I thought it was kind of interesting that NVIDIA reacted so badly to the success of DeepSeek, because DeepSeek is using NVIDIA's GPUs. I feel like if anything, that would be an advertisement for NVIDIA, right? If they're able to sell to this Chinese market as well, and they're seeing success with some of these GPUs that they're putting out there, even the ones with less capabilities, like the H20s and the H800s, I figured this would be a good thing for NVIDIA, but no, NVIDIA sold off big, and maybe it was just time for NVIDIA to retrace a bit. We know that NVIDIA has been really heading a lot higher over the past couple of years. It's been performing very well. And one thing I was thinking about is, could we see increased export controls on NVIDIA chips with the success of DeepSeek? Maybe these H20 GPUs and these H800 GPUs are going to be disallowed. They're not. The US may restrict NVIDIA from sending these GPUs with less capabilities over to China, and that's not good for NVIDIA. If you're NVIDIA and you're producing the key hardware for the AI revolution, you want to be able to send it all over the world, right? If you can sell to a market like China with a lot of money and a lot of people, then you want to hit that market. So if we do see increased export controls on these GPUs, that could really hurt NVIDIA. Over the past couple of years, with these export controls, we've seen the China revenue that NVIDIA has received has gone down from 25% to 15% of their total revenue. So we're seeing the market in China become less of the total pie of revenue for NVIDIA, which is not great for them, right? They would like to continue to have a lot of revenue in China. Looking at this chart, it shows NVIDIA's share price in January. And as you can see, around January 27th, last Monday, we saw NVIDIA crash hard. I also have a chart here of the Global X Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF. We really saw all major stocks crashing last Monday. The whole market was tanking, but this shows some of those, it shows the artificial intelligence and robotics market. And as we can see around January 27th, same thing. We saw this market really tanking. It's pretty crazy how much the emergence of DeepSeek impacted the whole stock market. And it makes you think, was the sell-off really justified, or is it a little bit overhyped? Is this something that the US really needs to worry about? And I do think that the fear is somewhat justified when we look at how fast this application, this product has gained popularity and its rise to the top of the app charts here in the United States. So I do think it's a sign that China is really looking to compete in this market. Now, one thing that we may see happen due to DeepSeek's success is we may see the US ramp up their export controls on China. We know that NVIDIA's GPUs, NVIDIA's chips are really powering the AI revolution. And if China is able to get their hands on these GPUs, that means that China is probably going to be able to compete more in this market. And even with the current export controls, with these weaker GPUs that NVIDIA is developing to send to China, it seems like China is still able to develop some good products with these GPUs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the United States increase their export controls and restrict even these weaker GPUs from being sent to China. When we look at the GPU market, NVIDIA is obviously the dominant leader. Everyone's trying to get their hands on this hardware, these GPUs. Then AMD is right behind them. AMD is a top competitor here in the US, and they are producing some pretty superior chips as well. And then in China, they have Huawei, I believe is how you say it, and they are the leading GPU designer there, but these GPUs are much inferior. So if you can cut off the access to these NVIDIA GPUs for China, then they aren't going to be able to compete as much in this market. Now for NVIDIA, you obviously want to be able to sell to a huge market like China. So we will see what happens with these export controls over the next couple of years here. And we just saw that the US put increased tariffs on China. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the trade war between the US and China moving forward. When we look at the US AI market, I think it's thriving. Yes, DeepSeek is a good product, but OpenAI is a great product too. Obviously, NVIDIA is one of the most valuable companies in the world and really changing the game for artificial intelligence. Tesla is producing autonomous vehicles, and now they're heading into robotics and creating these pretty impressive robots. And then we have other companies like Boston Dynamics, Waymo, an autonomous vehicle company. So I think the US AI market is thriving, and this is just something to keep in mind, that China is looking to compete in this market, and I'm sure there's other countries that are looking to compete in this market as well, although the US is the leader. That's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you didn't like and subscribe, please make sure to do that now. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.